Hey everybody, this is Joshua Smith, and I'm going to be doing a teardown of this Focusrite Clarett 2pre USB. If you don't have one of these things, go out and grab one. I'll put a link down in the description. These are one of the best prosumer audio interfaces. It's got amazing dynamic range, and the mic pre's are great. Definite bang for your buck. Probably the best quality you're going to get until you start getting up to the upper echelon of really good recording studio interfaces. But for podcasts, and for other things, these are super clear, super great. Definitely recommend them.
Okay, so the reasoning for this teardown is I actually bought this broken. And it said the jack was basically messed up, and I figured I was going to have to put a new jack into it. It said, plugging it in, it doesn't actually light up, or at least it doesn't lock. And so I plugged it in here, as you can see, and it's not going to show lights for anything. So I was like, oh, bummer. That's not even showing any kind of lights. I'm hoping I'm not going to be out of this $100. So I got my little tiny toolbox here, and I decided to poke this thing open and was trying to be super careful because I've broken plenty of things before, and I actually had a couple guitar picks kind of help me out with some of this stuff, but it actually comes off real easy. It was a lot easier than I thought it would be. I'm just making sure that, when I go around, I'm not actually breaking any of the tabs or whatever, but it definitely comes off pretty easy. Now, I actually had to take off all the screws. Any screws that I saw, I had to take off. Even the ones on the MIDI one there, they're still going to hold on this back panel. And then even on top of that, there's those other 1/4 inch kind of nuts or whatever that go around the 1/4 inch jacks. So taking off all these little tiny screws here. Hopefully you can fast forward a little bit through that. Getting yourself a better look. Actually, the end when I put it away is actually probably the best look at how this thing comes apart. But yeah, hurry up, Josh. Get those stupid screws out of there. Oh, and just FYI, if you don't know what you're doing and you don't take proper safety precautions and understand your equipment, you shouldn't open it. That goes for anything ever. The MIDI screws were actually the worst to get out. So, of all the other screws, they were the most painful. And I think they were also the smallest. So as you can see there, you had to kind of get your fingers in there and take off the little guitar, the 1/4 inch jacks, the little nuts in there. So I'm taking all those off. And the plastic part comes off pretty easy. However, it is attached to the leads that go inside for the power. Now, here's what I found when I actually pulled it apart for myself. If you take a look there at the right of the edge, you can see there's a missing connector. And I don't know if this is something that happens often, like if it gets moved around a lot, the connectors come off, but that is one of the easiest and best fixes ever. So here I'm actually gonna take the whole thing apart still, because I'm not sure if that's the only thing that's a problem, or if the guy had actually opened it up before and maybe he just didn't plug the connector back in. So taking off these knobs, it's pretty easy except for this big knob. This big knob, you kind of have to pry off a little bit, and then the metal part comes off and the plastic comes off separately. So just remember, when you put it back on afterwards, you probably put the plastic on first and then the metal on afterwards, so you can adjust where the monitor is supposed to stay there. Everything else comes off pretty easy. However, this front is kind of a pain. I had to pry it open a little bit, and I'm hoping not to scratch it, and I definitely did not. I was happy about that. But I kind of propped this open a little bit on this side, but then as soon as it kind of gets open a little bit, you can take it off to the back side by just pushing it, because the whole thing just sits in there. It kind of slides in a little slide through the chassis where the motherboard is. So the motherboard kind of just slides through. And I'm a doofus, and I didn't actually pull off the power leads, so that would be a lot easier to pull out. But yeah, see that motherboard there just kind of slides through, and it's pretty easy to get off. So I'm gonna take a look, see if nothing's broken, make sure the jack's not actually messed up, and I'll probably take a look at it and test it out before I put everything back together. There's a good look at the inside of it. So there's my kid, because she wants to get in the camera. But yeah, I'm just gonna put in this one power lead and like hope and pray here. Like, man, I hope this is just it. Because if this is just it, then this is the simplest fix I've ever had on earth. But putting a jack in it actually wouldn't be that hard either. You just have to desolder it and put the new one on. But as you can see, maybe like right there, you can see the little tabs where the motherboards kind of have to slip in. And so you kind of just have to adjust it, me being a doofus again and not just taking those leads off, and just slide it through. And it make sure that the motherboard actually goes through the middle of those little divots on the side, so that they are kind of like a shelf, or kind of like a drawer. Yeah. But it slides it back in pretty easy after you get that in there. Unless you're me and then you struggle. My daughter again telling me I need that cable. Yes, thank you, Penny. The back end goes on pretty easy. And she's trying to hand me this other part that I need later. But it all goes back together pretty much the same way that it came off. Which is kind of funny, because like normal prosumer things aren't easily gotten into without breaking things. I mean, if you've opened up anything before, I'm sure you've broken tabs, or they put booby traps in there sometimes. A lot Apple stuff will do, but this is actually really straightforward. Just FYI, if you don't have one of these smaller precision screwdriver kits, I will put one into the description down there, and you can click on that for easily getting that sent to your house. But obviously, it's just the opposite way that it came off at this point. Putting the screws back on. Super slow, Josh. Just FYI, I do get this thing back together, and it does fire up, and it does work beautifully. I love this little guy, and I've used these before in the past. I wanted this at home for my own little podcasting setup here, and I mean, these are guys, I've used a lot of interfaces over the time, and obviously there's better ones than this, but they're definitely more expensive. And the range that this one sits in, you're going to be paying a lot more money before you get something that's a lot better. So there she is. Oh, don't forget to put the knobs on here. I always switch them all the way to the left, so it's just a little easier to put them on. I don't have to worry about where they're always sitting. It's kind of moon shaped on the one side, so it goes in pretty easy. Silver ones go on the headphone and the monitor position. As I said, I put that plastic one on there first, and then tune it all the way to the left, so you know where that dial is going to be sitting, and then you can put on that metal part, because that metal one just goes on anywhere, or if you put it on, turn turned all the way to the left and it's pointing to the right, it's going to be messed up. So but they all go on pretty easy. Black ones obviously go to the preamps. And this part on the end is probably the most tricky part. It's just, you know, trying to get it to sit down and snap in all the pieces. And I'm just trying not to break it as it gets sit down, because, you know, it's like a dashboard plastic where it just, you know, at some point in time, if you take it off too many times, it'll probably break. But it goes on really easy, and voila, there you go. Plugging it in here, and then I actually found out that it needed the power cable still, because of the laptop not having enough power, or wasn't a certain USB-C port. It shows that it locks there, but for some odd reason you can see the blinking light. If it blinks like that, it means it doesn't have enough power. So I had to go get the power jack and plug it in, and it works pretty great. Oh, and here is me playing some very poorly played guitar. You're welcome.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe, and make sure you check out my record label, Not Today Robot, and the podcast about the record label, Starting a Record Label. Thanks, guys.